Ms. Franke serve 4 counts, 4 1 to 15-year sentences based on her convictions.
Well, guys, the world is healing. Ruby Franke, the mother from the YouTube family channel 8 Passengers, has finally been found guilty of being an evil devil woman. Well, maybe not technically, but that's the way I like to think about it. Now, about 5 months ago, I talked about the situation surrounding the 8 Passengers family channel here on YouTube, where Ruby Franke, the mother of the family that was the focus of the 8 Passengers channel, was arrested on charges of child abuse. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I would recommend that you just go and give that video I made a watch, because if you haven't seen anything on this, then there's going to be a whole lot of context that you're missing out on. But since I know that I rarely go and watch videos when people tell me to for context, I don't really expect you to either, so I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of what happened, just so we're all kind of brought up to speed. This is going to be quick, so stay with me. About 6 months ago at this point, Ruby Franke and her business partner and her partner in crime, literally, Jody Hildebrandt, were arrested for aggravated child abuse. This happened due to one of Ruby's sons escaping from Hildebrandt's house and asking a neighbor for food. The neighbors, seeing this emaciated and wounded child, called the police, and upon entering Hildebrandt's house, they also found Ruby's daughter, who was also emaciated. They were both taken to the hospital and treated for wounds, including deep lacerations from being tied up with rope. This obviously led to the arrest of Ruby and Jody, and it triggered an investigation, which found that Ruby and Jody were working together to keep Ruby's children in, I quote, concentration camp-like conditions. They were denied food, water, and sleep as punishments. They were physically abused. They had very little access to the outside world or any form of entertainment. And this was all going on behind closed doors as Ruby was filming for her family channel. Now, for the last few years, really starting around 2018 to 2019, I believe, many people have been worried for the safety of these children, as a lot of the extreme parenting techniques that Ruby and her husband employed started to come to light in their family vlogs. But sometime in 2022, Ruby and her husband separated and the YouTube channel was deleted, and then Ruby began to work as a mental health coach at Jody Hildebrandt's company. And it's at this time when Ruby met Jody that it's speculated that the abuse got far more severe. So with that, you are relatively caught up. If you want more information, like I said, there's a bunch of videos out there you could watch, not just mine. This was and is still a pretty big deal, so there's a lot of information on it out there. I'm just kind of giving you the basics. But why this is important now, why I'm talking about this again today, is because yesterday, Ruby and Jody went before a judge and found out what kind of sentences they're going to be looking at once the gavel comes down. Now, thankfully, these 2 human dumpsters pled guilty a few months ago. Now, originally, Ruby pled guilty to all 4 counts, but later, she changed her plea to not guilty on 2 of the counts. And Jody Hildebrandt had a similar deal where she pled guilty to 4 counts, and I think she had 2 of the counts dropped as part of the deal. And yesterday, they received their sentences. They both received 4 sentences to be served consecutively of 1 to 15 years of imprisonment. Now, this means that they could serve anywhere from 4 years, which would be an unbelievable injustice, or they could get up to 30 years in prison. Now, I know 4 times 15 is 60, but unless you get sentenced to life in prison in Utah, the maximum time served for any kind of consecutive sentencing is 30 years. Now, I know which one I would favor, but obviously Ruby was probably not looking forward to hearing these sentences, so as many people do, she gave a statement to the judge before he gave the sentence. And today we're going to be taking a look at it. Now, before we do that, I would like to give you guys a quick warning. The audio quality of this court live stream is some of the worst I've ever heard. I don't know if they were recording audio with like the municipal shared iPod Nano or what, but it's pretty bad. I've done what I can to try and make it a bit clearer, but there wasn't a whole lot to save, so put on your listening ears. Let's begin. Please subscribe.
Ms. Franke has a statement she'd like to make. She does.
I would like to make a statement without any intent to change my stipulated sentence. For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me.
Okay, so this is not a funny situation at all. Okay, this is a very serious topic, but the audio quality is kind of hilarious to me. This seems almost like a skit. How in 2024 does your mic sound like this?
I mean, it literally sounds like this. You can't even make out the words she's saying.
So I'm going to be doing some translation occasionally. I try to strive to never be that guy who stops a video to just say exactly what everybody just just saw, but I feel like in this case it might be necessary. So basically what she's saying here is this is all Jody's fault, that she had nobody stepping in and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, that Jody corrupted her mind and took her to a dark place and made her do all of this. And I'm not trying to give this woman any slack whatsoever, just stay with me here for a moment, but I honestly sort of believe this sentiment, not that like she was corrupted or anything by another person, this is a grown woman, but I wouldn't be that surprised if Jody was the one who introduced Ruby to all of these super extreme, insane parenting tactics. The timeline does kind of suggest that. However, that does not make Ruby better whatsoever, it only makes Jody slightly worse, because you still have to be an insane, horrible, disgustingly evil person to do this to your own children. Because the normal, sane human response would be, why would I ever do anything like that to my children? You're a sick woman. And then you would quit your job and not associate with that person anymore. So not trying to give Ruby any slack here, don't get me wrong. I'm only bringing this up because I'm curious on who else Jody did this with.
I take full accountability for my choices, and it is my preference that I'll serve a prison sentence. Thank you to the officers in Santa Clara and the Ivan City Police, Nick Hellman, Brian Palufo, Cy Pickuvit, Mike Pondoyo in Tobler, John Ward, D. Lewis, and Chief Flowers. You were the angels who came and saved my children. I especially want to thank Detective Jay Bate. She plucked me out of a situation I didn't know how to get out of. And the moment she handcuffed me was the moment I gained my freedom.
It's times like these that I wonder what was going through the attorney's head when he allowed her to do this. I mean, was this the same lawyer who represented that girl who scammed people on TikTok and made them think she had cancer? What is the goal here? I mean, she's really leaning into the victim here, trying to make it seem like she was saved and she can't wait to go to prison. Look, lady, you want to say that you were slightly less evil before you met Jody? Okay, sure, I could maybe buy that. But there are videos of you on the internet doing insane things to your children before you even knew this woman existed. You were still evil before you met this woman. She did not put you into this situation. You put yourself here because a person who wasn't evil and did not hate their kids and enjoy abusing them would never wind up here. That's not how that works. Now, I'm not joking. For the next like 2 or 3 minutes, she just continues thanking every single person that I think works for this city. I mean, seriously, at one point, I think she started thanking the park rangers. I don't know, maybe she was just trying to confuse the judge on who she was, mentioned so many names that he forgets who he's dealing with. I don't really know.
Kevin, my husband of more than 23 years. You are the love of my life. I'm so sorry to leave to you to finish what we both started together. The ending of our marriage is a tragedy. And you are wrapped around my heart. And now I'll never be able to undo.
Okay, so if anybody caught any of that, feel free to leave it in the comments. I could make out maybe 2 or 3 words out of those last 2 sentences, but she brought up her husband, which is something I wanted to talk about. Somehow this guy has completely slipped through the cracks, which is kind of crazy to me. I feel like there is no way he did not know what was going on, right? The mother of your children, your ex-spouse, cannot be this insane and you just have no idea about it. I think he should be facing some jail time too. I don't believe he was anywhere near as bad as Ruby. That's probably why they got divorced, but he was complicit. There's no way he wasn't. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, for the rest of her statement, I don't know what happens, but the audio quality somehow gets worse, and it gets to the point where maybe 1 in a dozen words are comprehensible. But from what I can tell, she addresses her children and talks about how they are her angels and how she wanted to keep them safe. Just more lies on top of lies to try and make herself look better. And then I kid you not, she continues thanking people who worked for the city and worked on this case. She had to have thanked at least like 200 people during this statement, and then she receives her sentence.
Thank you for your statement, Ms. Franke. Anything else, Mr. Winward?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else prior to the court imposing sentence?
No, Your Honor.
The sentence will be that Ms. Franke serve 4 counts, 4 1 to 15 year sentences based on her convictions for 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. Again, they will be served consecutively pursuant to the parties' agreement. and the applicable statute. Under the applicable statute, the court finds that that consecutive sentences are appropriate.
This man did not even take a breath between hearing this statement and then sentencing this woman, which I find very cool. I was really worried this woman was going to get off lightly, and I guess technically she still could. She could get like a 4-year sentence or something, but I don't really see that happening. As cases go, this is a relatively high-profile case. There's a lot of eyes on this compared to your normal child abuse case. If I had to guess, I would imagine they're going to get somewhere around 10 to 20 years. Obviously, I'd love to see them get smacked with a maximum sentence, but I don't really think that's gonna happen. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see though. Well guys, what are your thoughts? What do you think is gonna happen here? I honestly think that justice is gonna be served. Maybe I'm just being hopeful. Okay, that's a possibility. But I feel like given the nature of this case, given how public it is, nobody's gonna want to be the guy who gave these two a light sentence. That's not even considering the fact that what these two did is just genuinely terrible, and most humans are not gonna want to go easy on people like this. But if you're familiar with this kind of law, a lot of people get off pretty easy for doing stuff like this to children. There's a lot of states in America where stuff like possessing marijuana will get you a longer sentence than abusing a child. So hopefully this case doesn't end up like that, and this judge uses these two to make an example. I guess we'll see. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and walk on over to that subscribe button and touch it. It's free. It won't cost you anything. But for now, that's all I have for you today. Bye.